That's not rolling, right?
It is. I'll cut this out.
Okay. Because this is a story. Like with himself. What? Oh. And I'm like, dude, there's a lot going on. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They give me a shit about doing a podcast as video when
Why not?
I'd say over half the podcasts out there are video.
I'd say all podcasts out there. Well,
Not all of them. Not all of them.
But half,
Yeah.
half,
A lot.
I'll shut the fuck up.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, Carter. God.
Right? Happy Thursday, Chris.
Happy Thursday, Dr. Keinroth.
How we doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. All right, guys. So, StrengthCast episode 3. We've got a very special guest, good friend of mine. We went to school together. We've got Dr. Andrew Keinroth here. He's a doctor of chiropractics. He has his own practice called Health to Fitness Chiropractic in Tiffin, Iowa, down by Coralville, Iowa City area. He also comes up here to Iowa Strength about every other Thursday and sees patients. So I just felt like it was an invaluable opportunity. He kind of brought it up to me a few years back about maybe coming up here and seeing patients, and it's been amazing. So I just felt like it'd be a really good option for our members to be able to see a chiropractor that takes a different approach. Instead of just cracking your back and taking your money, sending you out the door and telling you to come back in 2 to 3 days. He likes to try to find the root cause of the actual issue and giving you corrective exercises, and it's all movement-based primarily, I would say in my experiences, for treatment. So a completely different treatment option from any other chiropractor I've been to, but I'll let him kind of dig into the nuances of his practice and everything. So do you want to kind of tell everyone about yourself a little bit?
Yeah, so my name's Andrew, obviously. I'm from Independence originally. Went to high school with Chris, that's how I know him, and we've been buddies since sophomore year high school, freshman year, something like that.
Yeah.
We had a class together. It's great. But after high school, went to Iowa State University, go Cyclones, graduated from there, went off to Palmer and Davenport, finished there, opened up my practice in Tiffin in, 2017, something like that.
Was it that long? Or was that late? I thought you started shortly after.
2016. I can't remember.
Gosh, I thought you started closer to when we started the gym, but maybe it was
No,
a little bit later.
because at your first location, I was still in school.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember going down to the very first location of Iowa Strength, getting a workout in, and then heading back to Mom's.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. But since opening, I had clients that keep asking me questions that I didn't know the answer to. So in pursuit of said questions, I've kind of developed the way I practice now, which is very much system movement based and putting people not literally into buckets, but proverbially into buckets of like mobility, stability, strength. Like depending on like what people need, we can kind of filter you through and move you from bucket to bucket and try and get you active and keep you active doing the things that you want to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what got you involved in athletics? And then is that what kind of got you interested in chiropractics? Or
Yeah. So I've been an athlete all my life. I did the t-ball, fast pitch, golf, basketball, football in middle school, high school.
You did some wrestling too, didn't you?
No.
You did? I thought you did wrestling.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nope, not a wrestler.
All right.
Not tough enough for that. And then when I was in high school, I was kind of walking around, kind of like all crooked and cockeyed for a while. My mom was like, "Hey, go see guy here in town, lovely guy, great chiropractor, Jason Puffett.
He's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Great guy.
And so went and saw him, and in a couple of visits, he got me sorted up. And I'm like, hey, there's something to this. So I started hanging around with, I went and saw, I would see him or Dr. Matt Fueling here in town as
Also
well.
a great guy.
Great guy, hell of a golfer too, by the way. And just talking with them about chiropractic and all these different things. And when I was at Iowa State, it was like, my advisor was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, something in the healthcare field. And so we started talking about it, and it was like, oh, yeah, I know some, like, chiropractic's pretty cool. So that's how I ended up doing what I do.
Awesome.
It helped me in the past, and yeah.
What is, if you had to choose one ideal, and I don't want to put you on the spot here, put you in a difficult situation, because I know you're very unopinionated when it comes to people and unbiased, whether they're an athlete or non-athlete, like to work out, not like to work out. But if you had to choose your ideal client, who would that be?
This is taking the easy way out, but anyone.
Okay.
I've seen patients in my office that are days old to 90 some years old. So,
and you're just very intrigued by the human body in general then, and as far as like how everyone moves and just trying to get anyone feeling better, moving better.
Yep.
Just improving quality of life then.
In most people, there's a certain pattern that I look for and I like to see with people, right? So it's a thing called regional interdependence. There's smarter people than me that coined the term, came up with the idea. Gray Cook and Dr. Gray Cook, he's a physical therapist, he's awesome. And then a guy named Mike Boyle, strength and conditioning guy out on the East Coast. I don't know them personally, I just like their stuff, read their stuff, follow it.
Okay.
But their basic thought is, so every part of the body has certain things that it likes to do, right? So your ankle can kind of move in all directions. Well, contrast that with the knee that, it can rotate and stuff, but not too much. But it kind of just has one function doing that, right? So we would classify that ankle as a mobile joint, mobile area, your knee as a stable area, and it's an alternating pattern going all the way up. So your ankle mobile, knee stable, hip mobile, because it can move and do all the movements that we need it to, and that pattern just continues all the way up. So if that pattern gets interrupted or something's going on that messes up that pattern, well, then the things around it are going to be compensating and given and taken and all this stuff. So like when I first started and I was just adjusting people, and because that's all I primarily did when I first opened, which is great. But
I feel like that's kind of what, not to throw shade on any other chiropractors, I feel like that's kind of like the easy route that a lot of them take, though, is just adjustment only. Well,
in school, you learn some modalities and stuff, but a lot of it is just adjusting, which is great. There's a reason for it, right? But there was some of my clients, they were just keep having the same thing over and over, and they were like, why is this happening? And I was like, at the time I was like, I don't know. Well, now I have since screen said clients, and let's say they have a tight hip or a tight ankle, well, then you start working on that, and their back pain kind of goes away, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Not to interrupt, but so you mentioned that one of the people that you look up to is a doctor of physical therapy.
Yeah.
Now, although you are not a DPT, would you consider yourself a chiropractor that might take almost more of a physical therapy approach to certain?
I would say it's a blend. It's a blend of like chiropractic and chiropractic philosophy, and with combining some of the things that you see a DPT or an athletic trainer doing, because everything has a place, right? And people are going to respond to different therapies, modalities, treatments differently, and people need different things. So if you can offer, hey, we're going to take you through a huge diagnostic test, find exactly what you need to do. Cool, you have a joint problem, awesome, let's adjust it. Do you have a soft tissue problem? Cool. Let's do some trigger point work or muscle scraping or pin and stretch, PNF stretching. Or do you have all the mobility that you need? You just don't know how to control it. Where then we had to teach you how to control things, right? And then once those things are satisfied, well, cool. Then let's get you strong. Let's get you athletic. Let's get you doing things so you can continue doing the activities that you like to do.
Awesome. Now, I know since we've worked together for many years now, ever since you've been open, that you've definitely evolved substantially. But your modalities or methodologies have also changed where, your testing, the type of testing you do has also evolved with your practice and with you as a person. And I know you're constantly, continue to educate yourself, getting more and more certifications and credentials and things like that. Not to I'd say on a high overview level, layman's terms, for someone like myself, what kind of credential certifications? I know you are some kind of you've got a certification through Titleist as a golfing person.
Yep.
But
TPI.
also
TPI.
But also FMS.
Yep. Functional movement systems.
Yep. So what kind of certifications do you do?
Yeah.
Or do you have?
Yeah. So I'm certified. The biggest one that I use every day is the SFMA, the Selectional Functional Movement Assessment. That's what we use on people when they come in and have pain, discomfort, and stuff. So that helps us arrive at what bucket do we put you in, what's after our orthopedic testing and ruling out pathologies and stuff like that. And then after you're out of pain, then we move to something called the FMS or functional movement testing stuff. So that's a series of 7 movements that pretty much any human should do unless you have some kind of congenital or genetic thing going on or surgical things. And yeah, exactly. And then once we know you can move well, then that's awesome, right? Well, let's take it one step further. Let's check your balance and stability with the YBT, Y balance test.
Which sucks, by the way.
Yeah, it's hard.
Anytime he gets a new certification credential, he'll come in here and be like, "Hey, Chris, I learned something new. I'm going to run you through it first."
Yeah, you're a good practice dummy.
Usually I end up falling flat on my face.
Right.
So.
And then just wait till later today. No. And then once we know you can move well, cool. Let's see, what does your athletic stuff look like? So we take you through a capacity test. So which involves jumping, carries, an ankle screen, stuff like that.
Okay.
As well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then the TPI?
Yeah. And then,
because it's not to interrupt. So when he comes here, he often, it's off camera right now, but he often brings basically a portable golf simulator. And I'll say this because you're probably not going to brag or talk about yourself, but you went to state for golf?
No, missed it by one.
Dang, man, I'm striking out.
Missed it by one for 3 years in a row.
Oh, okay. Well,
least
either
two,
way, exceptional golfer. I think you probably picked that up from your dad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Dad started me when I was 2 or 3.
Yep. So, but yeah, with that said, I know one of, Dr. Keinroth's biggest passions or hobbies is golfing. And it's quite obvious to see that, and his face always lights up when he talks about golf, and just to see the passion there is awesome. But he does bring in a portable golf simulator most times when he comes in here, and he actually does work with different clients in improving movement and golf swing and things like that. I mean, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. So TPI, founded by Greg Rose and Dave Phillips over in California there. It's basically taken so Greg Rose, he's a chiropractor, right?
Okay.
He helped Dr. Gray Cook found the FMS, functional movement systems, and all that. So the TPI screening process that we do on people to check how your body can move, because there's certain things that you should be able to do in a golf to make a efficient, good golf swing, essentially. And if that's compromised, well, is it can you fix it, or do you have to coach around it, that type of thing. So I focus a lot on helping people improve their bodies rather than trying to just coach their golf swing and stuff. Because I'm not a PGA pro, obviously.
Not yet.
No, we probably won't do that. But
Not with that attitude.
right. But so we take you through like a movement testing, the TPI level 1 testing protocol. We look at you on 3D movement it's a system called Keinroth, because we want to see how, first of all, how fast is things rotating, how are things moving, is it efficient? And then we look at it on video to try and translate all 3 of those things to say, hey, talk to your golf pro about this, or anything like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
No,
it's
cool.
been a lot of fun. I've used it on myself for like a year or year and a half or so. And I've kind of centered my training all around it, because as Chris said, golf is like one of my biggest hobbies. And I don't play enough to go out and shoot good, like super low scores anymore, but I like to hit bombs.
Yeah, and I will say, speaking of bombs, his last golf net for his simulator, he FaceTimed me, and he's like, hey, look what I just did. And hopefully your landlord doesn't watch this. But he showed...
Oh, we fixed it.
Yeah, he showed me a video, and he actually hit the ball so hard, it tore the net, and then put a hole into the drywall of his office area where he has a simulator.
I was in the new office for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, his brand new office.
Yep.
Brand new building.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And one other thing too, and like you may have caught this, but like with his simulator, he actually has a bunch of sensors and things like that. He'll actually physically hook up to you to get that 3D output from that simulator. So it's not just a net. It's actually 3D sensors that he'll attach to the individual to actually get a reading, and he pulls everything up on his computer. It's pretty high tech stuff, actually.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's real fun to use.
You've got a lot invested into it. So now I don't want to kind of put everyone to sleep with things like certifications and blah, 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 and not everyone is into golf. So you said you had some hot take items. I really want to kind of get into like some of your methodologies when it comes to training athletes and not just I don't want to say, when I say athlete, I don't mean just people who physically play sports. I mean like powerlifters, strongman, bodybuilders, the typical gym goer. And when I say typical gym goer, just anyone in the gym in general looking to improve themselves, whether it's to lose weight, gain weight, maintain, confidence building, stress relief, it's all in one aspect as an athlete. So what are some hot takes that you have as far as like training, I'd say injury prevention?
Yeah.
I know it's kind of a broad question, but I'm just going to kind of give this platform to you, let you kind of go off on tangents.
Oh man.
I know you mentioned single leg squats versus squatting with both legs, and so I will kind of give this to you on some of your methodologies and let you rant. So when I'm talking with someone who works out or is an athlete and stuff, the thing I like to pull up on my computer or print it off for them is something I have that I've seen before and used, and I really enjoyed it. So I just started using it in my own office instead of making something new. It's called the performance pyramid. So on the bottom rung, it's health, right? So pain, is your heart good, lungs, all your internal systems. We got to make sure that's good first. Second rung is movement. So that's our FMS testing. Is your breathing okay? Are all these things good? And then on top of that rung, it's strength, performance, agility, quickness, all that. And then it goes into, once you're training good, then you got to recover good. Once you're recovering good, what's your mental like? And then on top of mental is skill, so like sport-specific stuff, like drills for your position or whatever you're trying to do. That'd be all that. So a lot of times what I see is people sometimes people ignore the bottom rung of health. So when you have like a lot of pain and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna work through this, right?
Well, when you have a lot of pain, it changes how your body perceives things and changes the motor control that your system can use, because it's like, hey, this movement hurts, let's do it a different way. Well, then that leads to compensations and all these different things. So, and then the second rung of movement, you wouldn't believe how many people I screen and their movement is just not ideal. We'll just say it nicely like that. Even if they are working out and trying to move heavy weights and all these different things. So sometimes taking a step back and focusing on the bottom rungs there fixes a lot of problems that people have. And as you get higher up that ladder, I don't know if this is too hot takey in nowadays, but at a certain point, right? So you want to maintain like your double leg squat pattern, but for people that aren't really in powerlifting, because that's a lift, or Olympic lifting, because that translates direct, because you do everything off 2 feet and stuff in like Olympic lifting, powerlifting, strongman. But a lot of people, they don't, like at a certain point, you don't really need double leg squatting anymore. Moving towards more of like a single leg, like starting with a split squat, which is like a standing lunge, and then working your way up to like a pistol box squat, do a full pistol, and even like single leg deadlifts or skater squats and all these different things. And because at a certain point, like for a double leg squat, let's say because I'm like 210 right now, right? So if I have 215 on the bar, 210 on the bar, well, if I go single leg squats, I can just use my body mass, and it saves the orthopedic load on the person's spine and back and all these things. So long term, it can help just prevent some injuries and stuff like that. And then if you're working with athletes and people who are competing, you don't really jump or move from a stationary platform too often. You're like always
both legs at one time.
Yeah. You're a lot of time you're on one leg and doing stuff, and so if you're training on one leg, you're actually turning on more of like the control muscles as well as the prime movers, and there's just a lot more benefits to it. And I think it takes away some of the significant risk of getting hurt in the gym as an athlete, because we want to keep you training, because that's how you progress, get stronger, and all these things. We don't want to get strong. We have an injury, shit. And then like kind of restart that whole process, get to a certain point. Poop, we got hurt again. And it can just help prevent injuries while still getting strong, keeping mobility and all that.
And I mean, you've kind of explained this to me too, like when you are doing single leg movements, obviously, like, for someone that might compensate, that could create more issues. But so if you're taking out that compensation and doing just single leg movements, then you're actually strengthening all the muscles and the connective tissue, ligaments, and all that stuff too, and just becoming overall a stronger athlete, stronger person.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely.
Cool.
That's pretty much the gist of that. And then you can even go into like single arm training and all that stuff too, because like if you're throwing, you're not, or you don't really push overhead too often, like but like football linemen, bench press is great because you're using both hands that way and stuff. But a lot of people, you're gonna want to train even single arm, horizontal pulls, pushes, vertical pushes, stuff like that too.
Awesome.
And I feel like it gets overlooked a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I thought of a topic or a question and I forgot what it was. I mean,
Solid. Good host.
Yeah, I know. I need to start like writing stuff down. I mean, are there any other, I think, things like nuances or methodologies that like you want to touch base on when it comes to like maybe recovery or training phases or anything like that? I know you mentioned to me like how important you feel like deloads can be for athletes.
Especially as you get older.
Yeah,
Like
feeling that.
Yeah, like because like every 4 to 5 weeks I I need to take a deload because my body's just beat up.
And maybe for the audience too, like some people may not be quite familiar with
Yeah.
a deload or more of a specific definition. Do you want to
like-
give your explanation of
it's
what
like-
a deload would be?
Yeah, it's like active recovery. So you're not pushing yourself to 80 to 100% in the gym. It's more of like 40, 50%, just you're moving the body, but you're not pushing the body essentially. So you're allowing things to rest and recover, but you're still keeping everything kind of moving in a sense. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Yep.
It's less volume, less load, more focus on recovery, and it gives you a downtime to, because a lot of times hard training can, you get run down. Your mental status can just turn into, I just don't want to do things, and it can help keep you motivated.
Takes a toll on the CNS, like central nervous system,
Yeah.
as well. For example, when I do deloads, my training volume has really adjusted and changed over the years. I used to be very high volume, lots of reps, lots of sets, and just go, and keep adding exercises until I was like, yeah, I'm shot for the day, I'm done. And obviously that is something as you're younger, you can definitely continue to do for a while and get away with it without any issues. And then once you become old and broken like myself,
You're not old and broken.
I'm pretty broken.
You're fine.
So once you get older and stuff, it does make it a lot more difficult to continue to train that way. So, but right now, it's hard for me to lower my volume because I am a pretty low volume lifter anymore. I'm pretty much doing one set of every exercise. I'm touching it, I'm going, and I'm moving on to the next thing.
That's a little extreme low volume, but
I mean, it just depends. I mean, it's I also feel like for me, from a bodybuilding aspect, I can maybe possibly touch more exercises, go into an exercise a little bit fresher, and get more out of it and hit it with a little bit higher intensity, but also keep the intensity is a little bit higher, the load may be higher, but I'm still able to stay within my rep range, my reps and reserve scale or percentage scale or whatever your goal
Effort
is.
scale.
Effort scale.
Yeah.
For me, what a deload typically would look like is I'm probably maybe more on that 50 to 70% range. I'm usually under 70%, but it just depends on how I'm feeling. But I'm usually right around that range, and just again sticking with some of the same exercises, but also just taking more conscious effort to continue to feel and connect with the movement, connect with the weight versus just pushing weight, just to push weight. Because obviously none of us really want to do that. But
yeah.
But any other nuances?
For recovery, the most important thing, as everyone knows, is sleep.
Yep.
And I see that entirely too often where people just don't sleep enough. They get 4 hours of sleep because of kids or their job or they're stressed or they stayed up late watching Netflix, which I'm guilty of every once in a while.
Yep. Yep, definitely.
But yeah, sleep is the biggest thing, and then working on nutrition is always good too. Making sure you get the correct amount of protein, carbs, fats, all those different things. And
Andrew is also a certified nutritionist. And
not nutritionist, nutrition coach.
Nutrition coach.
Those are two different things.
I apologize. Certified nutrition coach, and also a certified personal trainer too.
Yeah.
Are you still working with any clients currently? I know you were for a while, but you kind of backed off a little bit.
Yeah, I backed off a bit when we moved into the new office. It was just a lot to be like, hey, I got to go paint and do flooring and hang stuff and do all these things, but we're going to start working with more clients again here soon. We're going to open that kind of back up again.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, when it comes to, I didn't really plan on talking about nutrition a whole lot, but I mean, I think that's a good segue. When it comes to nutrition, when it comes to carbs, proteins, fats, not necessarily calories, what do you think is the one macronutrient between carbs, proteins, fats that people neglect the most?
Well, it depends. Gen Pop, not your like weightlifter guys or gals. A lot of people just don't get enough protein, and one of the biggest things is convenience foods.
Yeah.
Because they have their higher sources of, like, I don't want to just classify it as bad things, but bad things.
Less ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because and like nothing's really, everything in moderation's fine. That's how I like to work with people. Like,
Same.
like, hey, you want an ice cream? Cool, go get it. Just don't have it a huge bowl of it every day.
Yeah, and one thing I like to do is like, all right, set certain macros. It's like, all right, yeah, you had a bowl of ice cream, so make sure you're tracking it. If you go, get close to your fat and carb intake for the day, there are certain ramifications. So you might have to not eat as much carbs and fats for the rest of the day. So typically, like, I would say, ideally, if you're going to have like an off meal or maybe like a less than ideal meal or a snack, try to save or bank those calories earlier in the day, and then save it up for like an evening or one of your last snacks, last meals of the day. That way you're not going over like in the morning or in the afternoon, and then you're just kind of hosed and don't have any calories remaining in your diet for the rest of the day.
Right.
So then you're just putting yourself in a less ideal position. Also, if you're eating like a lot of heavy, fatty, high carb foods, it might actually like kind of mess up your appetite for the remainder of the day too. Whereas then you may not have an appetite or the hunger, or you might have digestive issues going on throughout the rest of the day that just kind of make you feel bloated or awful or fatigued or whatever. So
yeah, and one of the things, like when I've worked with nutrition clients in the past, is something I've noticed is they do super good during the week, and then the weekend they just let it rip.
Oh yeah, I am 100% that person. A lot of times in the off season, I like my food, and I can definitely relate, and it's like something that I feel like a lot of us can tend to struggle with.
Yeah, so sometimes I like to let people be like, hey, let's look at like the whole week. Like, are you going to let it rip this week? Cool. We probably have to take away a little bit each day during the week so you don't feel like garbage, because we still want you to feel good.
Yeah.
We don't want you to be starving yourself every day or nothing crazy like that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, and because sometimes, like let's say you go out to dinner and some drinks with the wife or something, right? Well, let's say you get like a big fatty burger with some fries and
My go-to.
couple bush lattes or something like that, or
Not
or
bush.
whatever your even or old fashions. Let's go with that. That can just that burger that you make at home might have X amount of calories. Well, this one might have 2x calories.
Yep.
And then, oh, hey, you're just now over your weekly limit by 1,000. Hey, why ain't I losing weight? Well, there you go.
You're still putting yourself in a surplus by the end of the week.
Yeah.
If you do that. So.
Or breaking even.
Yeah.
Right.
And a good rule of thumb is, if obviously for the mentality, I feel like it's really important, especially for like a significant other that you're with. It's important to take those times and enjoy like, date nights or activities with the kids, birthday parties, certain celebrations and milestones. Obviously you want to be able to live your life, but just do it and just, be conscious of the foods and the drinks that you're putting in your body, especially the drinks. I think people really, really tend to go over on calories with the drinks, and it's just so easy. You're just drinking. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal, but it's not food. But
the soft drinks and all that stuff just
especially mixed drinks too. If you're drinking alcohol,
Yep, those add up quickly.
One thing, if I may, that I see, like, I agree with Andrew. When it comes to protein intake, a lot of people struggle to get it in. Another thing I see is that, especially when people are trying to lose weight, even gain weight, or just across the board in general, is a lot of people undershoot their fat intake a lot. They're scared, when you think of eating fat, you think of getting fat, gaining weight, accumulating body fat. But fat is really, really important for so many functions within the body, hormone support, brain function, cholesterol, joint support, things like that. So I mean, anything you want to talk about, like as far as when it comes to like fat intake?
No, you pretty much hit it. Make sure it's from good sources of fat. There's good and bad. Your MUFAs, PUFAs. I forget all the like specific examples, but make sure that it's like the right balance of good versus like bad. Again, I don't like to say anything's bad because nothing's really too bad. And then working with clients, working on not just their macros and all this stuff, but even changing their eating behaviors. If you're trying to lose weight, try and eat slower. If you need to gain weight, try and eat a little quicker. So that way you can just get more in and stuff like that.
Yep. Try to beat the hunger signaling.
And then
or lack thereof.
And then like if you have a bad relationship with food, let's try and make it good again, because we don't like to demonize things. Because I've seen it on both ends where, people look super healthy and they go to the gym, but my gosh, you can't ask them to do anything outside their routine because it's so demonized. So trying to reestablish that good connection with food and socialization and all these different things is and then the other way as well, trying to teach people like, oh hey, don't just get the hamburger helper box. That's just an example. Hamburger helper, don't come after us. But more of like make things from scratch, get things whole foods.
Yep.
That type of things
Yeah,
as well.
and actually that's a good point too, because like if you are a good cook, and let's say you're not purposely going out and celebrating something or like really looking for an excuse to have a date night with a significant other, if you're just wanting a burger, maybe consider making a burger at home. You can really control the fats that you use for cooking, the carb sources, the quality of the protein or whatnot. If you're making at home versus at a restaurant, do you really know? Like even if you go and like say, hey, I want a grilled chicken breast, you can say like I want it cooked with butter, not oil, or oil, not butter. But like really, like how clean are they? How much are they cleaning that grill or that griddle that they're cooking it on? You might be getting residual fats and things like that. That even if you're asking not to get it, you might still be getting it. So you're not in that kitchen with them. You're not cooking it. So just control as many variables as you can.
Right. So eating at home is always a good option.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But it's also can be more of a boring option. There is a certain social aspect to it. To touch base on getting out of a routine. So for my experiences with bodybuilding, I'm very regimented. Even like I'm not training for anything specifically right now, but I have my certain set meals that I eat every single day, and I try to eat them at a similar time. And even sometimes like in the mornings when I'm running late, it's like, shoot, like I don't know if I have enough time to cook eggs. And even opting for a protein shake sometimes is a mental battle for me. Even though I know I'm probably going to actually end up getting more protein out of a protein shake than the amount of eggs I usually eat, it's still just a mental struggle there. So it's just trying to like tell yourself, hey, like it's not that big of a deal. It's okay to do substitutions and live a little bit. One thing that I kind of want to refer back to with my former coach, Ryan Irwin, who I mentioned in a previous podcast, episode 2, is, he wanted to express and explain how important it is just to try to have more social interaction when it comes to attacking a specific goal. Like for me, I was trying to turn pro as a bodybuilder, and I told him previously in all the rest of my preps, I kind of shut everything down. Like and you know this from experience, like I would opt out of hanging out with friends, hanging out with family, going to certain functions because I wouldn't do anything. And that is not a healthy mindset to have either, because you're really just closing yourself off in a little box, and it can cause, maybe some depressive issues or some negative effects like that. So it's really good to try to distract yourself. And so like, my former coach was just like, Chris, like, part about being a pro is learning how to, get the most out of life and be able to associate and go do those social functions and still be, working towards your specific goals and whatnot. So it's just really important, like anyone looking to go on a health journey, don't think that you just have to shut yourself down, shut yourself out, put yourself in a box and close everyone else off. You want to keep that circle of people there because that's your support system. Those are the people that are going to be the cheerleaders rooting for you and wanting to see you succeed.
Yeah, and you want to tell people about it. You want to have that reinforcement from your friends and family to say, hey, I got your back on this.
And also keeps you accountable too, because people, the more you talk about it, the more affirmations you verbally say, the more questions people will ask you. So it's almost going to be like more motivation, like, I'm still working towards that goal. I'm still trying to, lose that 10 pounds or gain that 10 pounds and whatnot.
And who knows, maybe someone in your friends group or your family will be like, you know what, I need to do this too. Let's do it together.
Yep, absolutely. And then now you have someone to do it with.
Yep. And then that can just snowball into changing lifestyles and changing lives and how you view and think and all these different things, man.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of last things I want to leave, because I don't want to take up too much of your time, because I know you're gonna have a couple clients coming in here probably pretty soon. But one thing that I will attest to is, I know a lot of people, and even it's a joke within our friends group that we call Andrew a witch doctor. That's actually his name in my phone, is a witch doctor.
Yep.
But it's funny because like his methodologies actually freaking work. And I can't say that enough. Anecdotally, during my first contest prep, I was training and probably overtraining or training too hard for my skill level and recovery level.
That was your big thing.
Yep.
You were just pushing the envelope the entire time.
Yeah,
and it's
all
like,
gas.
Chris,
gas.
It's like, Chris, you are not eating half as much as you used to.
Yep. I was 2 weeks out from a competition. I think you know the story I'm going to tell, because I always tell people this. I was doing some seated rows on an old school like row / lat pull down machine that we used to have at one of our first locations, and I like almost overextended when I was doing the rows, and I kind of felt something pop in my back, and I was like, ow, that kind of hurt, and I stood up, and just shooting pain went from like the middle of my back all the way down to my legs, and I was stuck. And like I couldn't hardly take a step. I could not rotate at all. There's absolutely no chance I was going to be able to bend down to take my shoes off, anything. And I called him immediately, and I'm like, I think I just jacked my back up. I don't know what happened. I was 2 weeks out from my first bodybuilding show, and I thought everything right there. I'm like, this entire prep just went to nothing. I was scared. I was nervous that I just like blew everything. And honestly, I was nervous that I might have to have surgery or might have to, whatnot, and might have to have some downtime. So he's like, hey, come on down, come right in. I want to say, I don't know how many times I saw you within that 2 week period. It was several. But when I went down there, you did x-rays, because he has an x-ray machine at his practice. But we did x-rays. He noticed that I had one bulge disc, I think it was.
So we probably just saw some arthritis. You can't really see a bulge disc on the back.
But
on an x-ray at least, you can say, usually can get an indication of, that might be there, but you're not going to be like, there it is.
Yeah, so either way, a lot of like very, very careful adjustment, a lot of just like, I would say like tissue manipulation around that area. He was able to like really get me moving better even after my first visit, and then after continual visits. And I actually did go and see Dr. Puffett here in town as well.
Yep.
On top of that, and again, he's a good option too. But I will say, man, like there's no way I could again even touch my toes, let alone like hit like a pose or anything like that.
Yeah,
and so I
would have made fun of you on the stage.
I wouldn't have been able to compete. And so because of him solely, I'll say like I probably got back to, I would say within those 2 weeks, probably like 95%. I was able to compete. I was able to pose with no pain. I won my 2 classes and took second overall in the show for a show, and
brag. No.
No, I was many pounds ago, and I quickly got humbled by Charles, the gentleman that won that show down in Cedar Rapids back in old Best in the Midwest days. So, so that's why I want to say, like, I feel like not to pat myself, like I'm a huge advocate of the work that he does, because he's helped me in so many different ways. Like, I've had a lot of other issues going since then and whatnot, and genetic stuff that he's helped me work around. So what would you say, just to keep it really, really quick, maybe like in like a couple minutes, what does a typical first-time appointment look like for you?
Yeah.
Like let's say someone's got nagging pain or an injury or something like that. They schedule their first appointment. What does that look like?
First thing we do with everyone is go over paperwork, history, just to kind of talk about what's going on. Then depending on, like if you have pain shooting down your leg or down your arm, well, that we're going to do some more testing on that. But like, let's say your neck is just tight or your back is just tight. Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Like we'll do some orthopedic testing, but some of that's built into some of our movement testing stuff that we do anyway. Then we'll do some movement testing after some, if we need to, orthopedic and neurologic testing, see if there's any deficits or pain recreations. And then once we kind of know what kind of, like, back to the bucket analogy again, like once we know like kind of like what bucket you fall into, well, cool, then we're going to treat you using the modalities for each different thing, whether it's mobility, stability, strength, etc.
Gotcha.
And then it just kind of all depends, like how you do visit to visit and how you're healing, how things are going, are you moving better, what's hard, what's not hard, and things just, we take feedback, we change things if we need to. If things are going great, cool, keep doing it. Let's add something else in to make it harder, or, add more complexity to things. And
what you're saying is not a one-size-fit-all approach to, it's just patient-to-patient basis.
And in my opinion, that's how all healthcare should be.
Don't even get me started on that topic.
But that can be a different thing for
maybe we'll get, Anyways, not wanting to ruffle too many feathers there. So, you don't always even do like a back crack or a neck crack or an adjustment for all people either, do you? Because I'm pretty sure there's some times when I've worked with you that you didn't even adjust me a single bit. After assessment, you're like, you're good, you don't need to be adjusted.
Yep. Because there's a lot of times, let's say you come in and your neck is stiff, but you have, let's say you can look to the left, you can't look to the right standing. We lay you down on the table and you can turn your head 80 degrees laying on the table and you're laying down. Okay, cool. You have the full tissue and joint range. You have all these things. You need to learn how to control those things. If there's some pain there, we might do some soft tissue work or something to help pain, but
keep that.
Something. He said this was going to be like 20 minutes. We're going on 50. Give you a nice little edit there.
Yep. We'll cut that out.
It would be funny.
Perks of filming live,
right?
So,
we
have a special guest come in.
Hi, bud.
Kilo.
Oh, Kilo, bud.
Alrighty. So, I guess with that said, are there any other, like, hey, old boys give me a hug. Are there any other like things that you would like to leave the viewers with? Anything you'd like? Any last takes of information? Or anything?
If you've never been had your movement screened or checked or anything, get it done. Even if you feel like you're good, there might be a couple of things where you can improve. And like one of the biggest changes that I see for a lot of people is like learn how to like stability.
Mm-hmm. That's one of your big things with a lot of people.
Yeah, because if you don't, like for weightlifting specifically, a lot of people can't or don't know how to like engage the entirety of their core and their muscles, and it can over time at a certain point lead to injury, and then also it can actually make your weights go up higher.
Yeah.
I had one client that was stuck at like 315, and then taught them how to breathe and brace and like just do like high tension stability better, and their weight went up like, I want to say like to like 500 in like a month.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how that can happen. You can see significant jumps like that though.
Yeah.
And not to continue this on, but that actually reminded me of another question I had earlier. You said stability, but you didn't talk about mobility. Do you think a lot of people actually get those two topics mixed up? Because like everyone's always talking about, oh, you got to do your mobility work, your mobility exercises, you got to get mobile and moving good. But like, do you think a lot of times people are getting those mixed up?
Not really. Sometimes stability just gets
Overlooked?
overlooked. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good way of putting it. Because mobility has to come before stability in the way I view things. Because if you don't have the mobility in like one area, well, you don't want to add motor control to that area because you're learning how to control a limited range, and you're getting bad feedback from the system and all this stuff into the brain, which can lead to bad things over time, like injuries and all that over time and stuff. But yeah, learning.
You might have some difficult patients like me that are too mobile
Yeah,
and have
those
to
are
focus on stability
a lot.
a lot.
Yeah, yeah. We talk about mobility like once or twice, maybe a year for you.
Yeah. If
that.
Yeah.
Like
So-
one of the only times we did was because your quad was just super tight. So it was
Yeah,
like,
still is. Well, my ankle mobility is shot.
well, I think that's from your.
My surgery
Your
primarily in my feet. Yeah. So, but yeah, I've got some nerve damage too from some surgeries in my left leg and stuff. So it's like
Yeah, Chris is a
I'm a cyborg.
Yeah.
So I've got some
turn you into RoboCop. So.
I've got some aftermarket parts. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, well. Guess with that said, hopefully you guys got a lot out of this. If there's any questions or if you want to see him on again, just let us know. And so in the meantime,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, I appreciate you. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can get him too excited. All right. Thanks again for watching episode 3 of Strength
Cast.
Cast. Thanks.
You didn't even know
I
that.
don't-
Gosh darn
Yeah,
name of this.
I keep
bud.
forgetting the name of it. So, all right,
okay.
guys. So, keep an eye out for episode 4, whatever that may be. We'll figure it out. So, all right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Later. That was good.